Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Positive Living Vibrations Roundtable, where I have brought to you some absolutely awesome people that I have interviewed before, and I thought that they needed to come together because they are really creating an orchestra for you today. Each one of their instruments is extremely important into your lives. They are wonderful people. I invite you to go back and listen to each one of their shows. There are nuggets of information here that you need to bank because they will help guide you forward in your decision making in the future. So what are we talking about today? We're preparing our mindset for old age. Age can catch up very, very quickly. And if we're not ready for it, we are going to be in trouble. We're going to speak today on how to prepare for our mature years in mind, body, heart, and soul, and financially. For if we don't, age can eat us up alive before we are ready. We do not want to rush into old age. This is not what this is about, but it's being prepared for it. Health-wise, are we looking after our bodies so that the bodies will serve us for a good long time? Are we prepared for all the things that we need to know about aging parents or ourselves aging in the future? Joy's got a beautiful book on that, which every contingency has been addressed. And Mark is the financial expert who's going to show us how we can prepare for old age so we don't get to that part in our lives where all of a sudden we find ourselves matured and retired and not financially secure. So it's all about bringing all of this wonderful wisdom to you today. And I look forward to sharing all this knowledge with you. So I'm going to go through each one of them and let them have a little introduction of who they are. I'm going to start off with Joy here. Joy, gosh, talk about dedication. She has put together a book with all of those what ifs. Well, what if this happens? I don't know what to do if that happens. And it's an excellent book for people who have parents who are aging. And folks, we're going to age. You know, the gift of life is aging and all the beautiful things that come with it. But very often we just don't know what to do. And she's put this beautiful book together, and our whole premises is about helping you be prepared for that, what to do so you don't feel intimidated and you can go through life gracefully. And as I said, Mark is the financial expert. He's put a wonderful program together and knowledge and tips and exactly how to prepare for your financial well-beingness so that you can live a whole abundant life. And Deborah, she's talking about the wellness aspect, mind, body, and soul, how to look after yourself so that you can have all that beautiful abundance in wonderful age. Age is not a crime. Age is not something that, oh my God, I don't want to get old. It's a gift. It's a gift of knowledge and wisdom and joy and light. And it's something that can be absolutely exuberant and a beautiful gift that you can pass on your knowledge to other people. So how do we age in a way that we can be secure and really and truly and utterly safe in that aging? Joy, my darling, welcome back.
You're a tough act to follow. You are so wonderful. I mean, I get excited just listening to you, and that's just part of it. That is part of my philosophy. Here it is in a nutshell. Be careful who you hang out with. Your friends, their attitude rubs off on you, and it just they either get us or they don't. But friends will be really, really important in part of the aging process. As you have experienced just from listening to Sara, we are energetic. We are energy-giving human beings that give off what we live and what we breathe, and we are so important to each other in this way. So.
Yeah, we are, this whole beautiful abundance about getting older. I know that when you're young, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to be old and redundant. No, who said anything about redundancy? We're just coming into our own, aren't we, Deborah?
Absolutely. It's nice. Yeah. I mean, hard act to follow. Absolutely. I'm like, I don't know if I can vibrate an energy up higher than Sara, but
Oh, yes, you can.
yes, you can. I mean, I love to come at it from a perspective of making sure that your body is at an optimal state, right? There's just really simple things that we can do, because sometimes as we start to get wiser or ripen, I'll replace some words, start to get wiser, we notice changes. And I always say to people, the biggest piece of real estate that you need to invest in is in yourself. And most people don't get that till they're 40-ish. Till they're 40-ish, they're like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. You know, I've been called a hippie more times than hippies.
I'm a genuine hippie here.
With your sister. Absolutely.
I actually, just to hit on that point before I get to Mark on hippie, a lot of people think hippie, you know, long hair, far out, dirty, abstaining from life. But no, the true essence of what a hippie is and was is actually really immersing yourself in life and really truly having the experience. And so, you know, living each day in that beautiful experience of existing and what else is possible. Right, Mark?
You know, it's interesting that Deborah just mentioned that, and you just focused on the hippieism, if you will. By the way, I can't remember what 40 was. I haven't.
Me neither. Too long ago.
I will tell you an interesting story I just heard of a friend of a friend who he had done very well financially. And he had worked very, very hard throughout his life to get to the point where he felt he had the finances to retire, right? So what does he do? He completely retreats. He completely goes the other direction. He moved to Sedona, gave up everything he had, and all he's doing is looking at the stars and meditating now. He has just disconnected from everybody. So I think, you know, I come at retirement and the finances from a different perspective than most of the people in my industry. I think our industry's done a lousy job of preparing people for retirement. They talk so much about, you know, somehow the more money equals the more toys equals more happiness. And that's just not the case. Certainly our number one fear is, you know, what if we outlive our money? But as big a fear is, what do we do the rest of our lives? How do we have a fulfilling and rewarding retirement? And certainly the numbers are the engine for so much of what drives us and what we pursue in retirement. So we have to have some kind of money behind us, but so much more of it and so much about who we are is about what we do, how we replace the business culture, how we regain a different identity, how we, you know, are respected in the community. And as Joy said, talking about friends, how we stay connected, who we are connected with, and how it impacts us.
Very important. Joy, yes, I know you're wanting.
Mark, I have a question for you, Mark, and you're the perfect person to ask this question to. If you could begin to teach people in grade school, kids in grade school, about money, what would you teach them?
Great question. And so I do a lot of webinars on financial literacy and financial wellness, talking to adults. And in every single one of those, what I do and what I drive home is, you have to bring more financial awareness and financial literacy to your kids. And we have to break through this taboo that we can't talk about money, right? I mean, it used to be we couldn't talk about religion and politics, but we've sort of broken through some of that, for better or for worse. But the taboo about, you know, money is a topic that you're not supposed to be talking. And I talk about two things when it comes to our kids, okay? First, it's important that they understand that they have to start small, okay? So if you put $1 a week away, $10 a month away, get started. It's the discipline about saving, not how much you save. Because the lesson is, I hear a lot of 50-year-olds go, oh my goodness, I wish I knew now, what I knew then, what I know now. Oh my goodness, I can't believe how much money I have to put away now in order to reach my retirement number. So let's get them started when they're in their 6, 8, 10 years old. But more importantly, the power of compounding money over a long period of time. So let me give you the numbers, okay? And this is what we do at every webinar, you start at the age of 20 and you invest for 8 years only, and you invest $2,000 a year, versus starting at 28 and investing for 39 years till the age of 67. Here you've invested $76,000 or $78,000 versus the $16,000. Well, at the age of 67, for each scenario, assuming a 9% rate of return, and no guarantees on that number, but let's just assume a 9% rate of return, the person who invested for only 8 years outperformed the person who invested for 39 years by $80,000. And so if we can get people started, and oh, by the way, in our 20s, we have fewer obligations than we do in our 30s and fewer obligations than we do in our 40s. So why not find a few dollars here or there, put it into the retirement plan, use the employer-sponsored plan, do it on your own, whatever it is, but be disciplined about putting little pieces of money away over a long period of time. That is, I think, one of the most important lessons we can share with our little ones.
Which one I wish I had known when I was growing up. Joy, in your preparedness, of preparing people for the mature years, is that, money is not something that really kind of comes up, does it, until it hits someone in the face. Oh my God, how are we going to afford your mom's retirement or dad's retirement or my own retirement?
So it's interesting you should bring that up, because so many of the old people in my life don't have any money. I'm talking the 90-year-olds who never thought they would be living this long. So what do those people do? They first of all, they're good researchers. They know how to look for programs that they may qualify for in the city. I live in Chicago, so there are many, many opportunities for them. Also, they have a close network of friends, and they do the barter system, and they take care of each other, and that doesn't cost a dime.
Yeah. And, going back to good company,
That's right.
One of my favorite programs was the Golden Girls. And I found that's what I want as I get older, a group of good people, fun, share the resources and be there for one another, right? Very important. Hey, Deborah.
I mean, I really love what Joyce said. Thank you so much for just reminding people on who you associate with, because from a health and wellness standpoint, you're taking that in, and it's a big deal. It's also a really big deal when you choose to make healthy changes in your diet, healthy changes in your mindset, or you start to do things in a different way. It's really hard to break away. I mean, I'm not in my 40s anymore either. I am a December birthday, and I'm 57 in a short period of time. And when I looked at when I first started discovering, because I started in my 20s, really living more of a natural life and researching, and when I made the simple change of not putting food in a microwave. Now, if you put food in a microwave, I'm not judging. It doesn't matter what you do. It matters what I do, right? Yes. That's my philosophy. It doesn't matter what you do. I'm here to help you. But so when I decided to not use a microwave, my daughter was 4, she's now 28. I can't tell you. I had to duck. I mean, I used to go to family events and they're like, oh, don't eat the peas. They were put in a microwave. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, thank you for the information. But it wasn't being said that way. And so I think when you make change, if you're making change about your life or the books you're reading or the decisions that you're doing or what have you, in terms of health and wellness, sometimes it's really, you need to hang out with those people that are at least open or are going to be okay with the things that you're doing or you're changing, because, like you shared, and thank you so much. I gave my children those wealth books when they were younger, that it's different. And it's different to think of aging from your health perspective, from a preventative perspective, right? I remember being at a trade event, I'm in my 50s, my daughter's in her 20s, and we were at a trade event and we were talking about natural products for the skin and the brain. And I'll tell you, she got more flack all that whole trade show than I did, because people used to come up to her and go, "How old are you?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm 20." And they're like, "So why are you talking about these products?" And she literally, and it was only fun the first 3 times. The rest of the trade show, I can tell you it wasn't. She was like, "I don't need to wait to look like my mom before I do something about my." I'm like,
Ouch.
it's only
Oh.
that's only fun if you do a sale. No. But the point was, it was like, it was such a barrier to people to even the idea around prevention. And here's what I don't want people to think. I do not want you to think that you are too ripe or too wise to make a difference in your health. I've heard it and I hear it, and I hear it from friends and colleagues like, "Well, I love this one. Well, I've done it this way so far and I'm just fine."
Yeah.
I'm like, let's put your brain on a scale and put mine on a scale and see where they're at. Right.
Right.
But that kind of, I'm okay. And people are okay until they're not. And I think that you all probably experience that, right? But when they're not okay with their health, and I get that panic call, or I'm not remembering things and I don't want to tell anybody, but I'll tell you that I can't find my keys, I can't find my this, then it's really scary.
Yeah.
Right. So we're okay until we're not. And that's where prevention comes in. But I don't want anyone to think somewhere down the road, I'm sure, Mark, you would agree, there's a lot of people that are at that stage. They're like, "I wish I took that advice, but I didn't take that advice. Can you help me now?" Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't want people to think they're resourceless, because we can always change our body.
And we can always change our mind. We can always change our attitude. And, I think going back to something that you said right in the beginning, Joe, the people you have around you, Mark, having, somebody that a youth person looks up to, an uncle or a household friend or whatever, that is willing to talk to them. Because sometimes parents, I don't want to listen to my mom and dad, having somebody else talk to them about, yeah, I didn't prepare, or I have prepared, I'm going to be okay. You're planting seeds, because of course the young, think, "Oh, nothing's ever going to happen to me. I'm indestructible." And it's all about going out and having fun. I'm not going to put any money away until they are mixing with people who are of mature years. And if you're lucky, this is going to be you one day. All right. And where do you want to be at that time? Do you want to be financially secure? Do you want to be healthy? Do you want to be prepared for everything that comes? And it can be scary for a young person, but at the same time, the more knowledge they have, the more reconstruction of their life, the more awareness in their lives that they can bring. And the more, going back to what you said, Joy, about the people around you, that it doesn't have to be all your own age, that mixing it up with different ages, different ethnicities, different cultures is actually, the smorgasbord of life. And that's where you get your wisdom and your knowledge. So attitude is really, really big. Mark, attitude over money. A lot of people have a really hard time with attitude over money.
But I want to follow up on something you just mentioned with regards to what Joy was talking about, and in essence, connecting with people. This is where I get back to replacing the business culture, okay? And I talked about it in the foreword of my very first book. I had a client who came in to figure out whether or not she had hit her magic number, whether she could retire, whether she was in a position where she wouldn't run out of money. She was 57 years old. She had worked for 39 years for the same company. So you do the math. It was her only job. And they were providing the pension for her. And after we did the planning, as it turned out, she was all set. So we made a subsequent meeting for a month later, and she comes back in. She was going to tell HR she was all done. And she sits down and she starts crying. And it's like, okay, what did I just step into? What's going on? And when we walked through it, in essence, what she was doing was saying, listen, I have structure. I have a reason to get up in the morning. I have a place to go to. I have people to talk to around the water cooler of all ages, of all ethnicities, of all different personalities. I'm a part of a respected community. They like me. It's my second home. And I think that this connectivity is so huge to being a big part of the formula looking forward as we think about retirement. Yeah, the numbers are important. And, you can make choices if you don't hit your number. There are sort of different compromises you can make if you don't really have the amount of money you need. But it's so much more about how you feel about yourself and what you're doing and how you're contributing than it is per se about the money.
That's an investment into your mature years anyway, right, Joy?
As far as I'm concerned, that's all there is. I mean, you can have all the money in the world and be the loneliest, saddest, isolated, incomplete human being. And it's tough to backtrack when you discover that you're the king of the hill and you got no one to play with.
Yeah. Yeah, that realization. And like, Mark, so many people have given their lives to their family, to their job, to everybody else but themselves. And like taking that away from them is like taking their identity away from them. And so kind of a lesson learned here is really not all your eggs in one basket, right? Have hobbies, have other things you love to do. I have a friend who was a teacher, couldn't wait to retire. I mean, what she does every single day, is more than what she did when she worked, but it's everything she loves doing. So we've got to find that redirection to doing something that we love to do. Our show is like, jump into joy, jump into life, Deborah. Find something that's exciting.
I mean, I find myself very fortunate because, and I think that you would agree, being entrepreneurs, you tend to associate with entrepreneurs. And so therefore there's this never ending feeling of creativity, right? There's kind of like, I don't know, we come from the same bag of jelly beans, you know what I mean? And it's kind of funky. And I guess I'm the health person. I shouldn't be talking about jelly beans. But so I think as long as you're in that creative flow, people talk to me about, they say the word retirement, and I'm like, honestly, I don't know if I would do much different than that I do now, because I was fortunate enough to make that change at a time that maybe it was scary. In my 20s, I started being an entrepreneur. And so here we are in this wonderful world of doing things like that. And I think that's really about part of it. I think the information that we have about different things that come to us, there's so much more. And I think that's a really big part of it. I talk a lot about the brain. I mean, Sarah, you've heard me talk about the brain. And one of the things that keeps this brain and these neurons firing and people alive is really listening to people, new information, trying new things. I love that story of replacing what she did with the things that she wants to do, right? Yeah. I think in life, we can all agree that there's things that you may not absolutely love, but are part of what you love, right? It's not what you love, but it's part of what you love. And that does keep the body healthy. It does keep the mind healthy. It does keep you happy. And here's the interesting thing. And just, I can't give the exact stat because I've done, over 30,000 clients I've had in my career. But when they are in a happier place, when they are doing a happier craft, whatever that is, if it's not their work, it's that side gig, it's what they do after, because they have an understanding. As long as people come to an understanding, I might be going to work 4 or 5 hours a day. It might not be my number one fun, but I have a good, healthy relationship with it. My number one fun is, carving, or my number one fun is painting, but I've chosen not to do that as my craft. If you have a healthy relationship with what you do, it's amazing. You actually have a healthier, happier brain. You have a healthier, happier gut. You digest things better. You eat better by nature. You exercise more by nature because your surroundings are healthy. And then that's where I get to take people and go, how are we going to keep this mitochondria going? How are we going to keep your lymphatic system flowing? I mean, I get to take it to the anatomy place and explain to people just some of the things that they can do. I'll do that before we finish talking on just some of the simple things that people can do. When we talk about wealth, I don't know, Mark and Joy, if you're familiar with a bank called the Royal Bank. It's obviously it's a very big bank in Canada. And I remember getting called in. This is eye-opening. I got called in to teach their health and wealth series, not only to the people that worked at the bank, but also they had a vast amount of very affluent people that had so much money, but they didn't have the health to be able to get onto a cruise ship. And I remember going in and teaching about putting lemon in their water, and they were like, ooh, that's interesting. I was like, oh, we got a long way to go. This is going to be a long series. It's going to be a long series, right? And I was like, all right, so we're going to put lemons in the office tomorrow, and the difference between eating, proteins and starches separate and why, and just the aha moments, right? The aha moments, because we tend to still think in the way that we were originally taught, whether we think so or not.
Yeah.
Because I bet you, if you talk to a certain demographic, meat, potato, vegetables, same meal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joy, I'm throwing this over to you. I know you've got plenty to say here.
My Italian background, are you kidding? We're just the, please, let's talk about wine.
Don't touch my pasta.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I mean, the Mediterranean diet, I have to say I'm fortunate. Growing up, we had and have now currently a Mediterranean lifestyle. So our big meal is lunch, and then we take a nap, and then we go back to work, and then we become social at around 7 p.m. And then we eat a very light dinner, if anything, and in the evening, and then off to bed we go and just do it again the next day. So there's a lot of, in my culture, socializing. Food is love, food is family, food is community. We never eat alone. We all live together. I live in an apartment building here in Chicago. My mother lived with us until, and not with us, but in her own apartment in the building. She has since died, but now my brother lives here, and he's aging solo. And it's just natural. My sister just lives down the street, and we are together all the time. And we include people who don't have family as though they are family. So we eat together all the time. Very important. We do have a good diet, but I'm sure, way too much pasta.
There's no such thing as way too much pasta.
Thank you.
So let me just pipe in for just a moment, because Deborah talked about retirement, and I think something that has happened to all of us over the past couple of years has provided us a gift, and it's, believe it or not, the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And so I said, I mentioned I wrote my first book. Well, after I wrote the first one, I said I would never write one again. Well, I lied. I just released the fourth book. Okay. And to me, the pandemic was a glimpse into what retirement was going to look like. Mm-hmm. We had nowhere to go. We weren't going to work. We were home with our spouse or partner 24/7. For some, that worked out really well. And then there were others. And, it was interesting. What I learned personally was I needed my office. I needed a place to go to. I needed to get out of the house. I needed to be creative. So that's what I found. And it also, gave me a sense of, well, I might be thinking about retirement or something about retirement in a few years. Maybe I'm going to second guess this and think about this all over again. And for some during the pandemic, they have readjusted their behavior and their thinking. Okay. I know of some of the road warriors who were on the road 200 days a year, and every time I asked them, it was all a mindset. It was a rationalization. They had to do what they had to do, and it was okay to give up this stuff. Well, this stuff usually meant family. Yes. And now that they're home, and now that they see what they were missing and how much joy they take from it, they're rethinking what the rest of their life is going to be. So I think that as bad as it was for the past couple of years in terms of how it's impacted many of us, I think it gave us the opportunity to see what the future might look like and what retirement might be, and how we could find a place where we could be happy.
I think another point is to add to this, because the youngest person I've interviewed was 10 with her first book, and the oldest person is 89. And the 89-year-old had her own TV show. And, a lot of it is that attitude. How do we look at aging? Retire. Now I've, got to go and put myself on a park bench and feed the ducks. For so many people, it is a redirection. I no longer have that career, but now I can go and really do something I want to do. And very often you find coaches or new entrepreneurs in their 60s, in their 70s, because now they've really got the knowledge, they're abundant with it, and now they want to share it. And so I think when we look at retirement, let's look at that word. Is it retiring from the career that you've had? And now you're choosing a different career for different reasons. Maybe it's not financial. Maybe it's something you've always wanted to do, but you didn't have maybe the financial backing to do it. It's like, it's being proactive. It's doing something you love. It's being integrative, community. I'm always saying this, you've all been interviewed me by a few times, community, 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 being there for each other, sharing with each other. That beautiful, wonderful potluck table with everybody's dish on it is so important. I think one of the big problems with getting older, people think, oh, well, now I can just put my feet up and do nothing. That is a kiss of death, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and probably financially. So, as long as our vehicle and our minds and hearts and souls are still in it, we want to keep going until the day comes to an end, right? It's important to do. Joy?
I want to say that, and this is for the adult children who have a very difficult time watching their parents do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And they get upset at their parents because they think that they're doing nothing. And in many ways, and this was, I've seen this play out in many different ways. So if we approach our parents and say, why don't you just get out of the house? And there's a club over here, and there's this over there, and volunteer over here. And they say, you know what? I earned this. I'm happy watching Wheel of Fortune every night. And then we hear that, and it upsets us because we don't understand why they're choosing to not continue to contribute to the world when there are so many problems.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't understand that. And I wrote about this, and the title of this particular blog was, Do You Have Parents Who Do Nothing All Day? And I thought a lot about this because I've heard adult children be so frustrated about this. And it required that they take a look at their relationship to their parents and allowing their parents to continue to be their parent as a way to give back to the world. Here's what I mean by that. The relationship between an adult child and a parent does not change. The parent is always the parent, and we're always the child. And the day we think we can creep up to that relationship is the day they can slam the door in our face and say, no, you're the kid. You will always be the kid. So we really cannot tell them to do anything. We also can't tell them to exercise. We can't tell them to stop eating donuts. We can't tell them to stop watching television all day. And this is all a part of the relationship dynamics between children and parents. But one thing we can do is to get the relationship back on track. And if we have parents who do nothing all day, then the best we can do is ask them or put them in the very dignified place in our lives to maintain the relationship of being my mother and being my father. And that means coming to them as the child and say, Mom, thank you for everything you've always taught me. I watch you and I admire who you are, and I want you to know what you have done for me. Same for Dad, right? So, Mom, could you give me some advice on something? Mom, can you please help me with this? Could you please water my plants? Could you please make us a salad when we have dinner? Helping our parents maintain the relationship of being our parent is one of the most respectful things that we can do. And that alone is giving someone purpose and meaning and love in their older years. If these are the kinds of people or parents that we have that choose to do nothing all day, but perhaps just watch television, there is a way to give back to our parents so that they know how valued they are as parents to us. So when I hear people say, get out there and do something and give to the world and find something you love, sometimes it's something as simple as maintaining the parental relationship that you had with your children. And sometimes it takes the adult child to make that happen.
Make them feel wanted. I mean, I have an 8-month-old grandson, and in the beginning, oh no, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and I didn't have a car at the time. I wanted to buy a car, and I just waited. And a few days after baby was born, Mom,
Yeah.
can you come down? And she knows she can pick up the phone, and I'll be down there and help out the best ability I can when I can. Right. And so she's respecting the role of mother now that she is a mother. Right. And they see that motherhood from a totally different demographic. And I think, like what you're saying, is if you invite them to do something for you, you're still leaving them in that role, but you're also giving them something to be proactive of that could actually lead into something else. Right.
It could actually lead to something else, and it typically
we just don't want to be
does.
dictated to, right?
Right. And I don't want people to feel bad who are not ambitious about finding something. I like to give them space to, and so if they're in that quandary of, well, I don't know what I want to do, then I begin the process of saying, well, you are important to me. Could you help me do this?
Right.
Can you please, be a part of my life right now? I need you.
Yeah.
And it typically catapults it into something else.
Yes.
But I've heard a lot of people in all my talks that I've given for the past 30 years, is they say, I don't know what to do, and people they make me feel guilty that I'm not doing anything, and I say, okay, well, I'm sorry that's happening to you, but I usually go talk to the people around them and say, you need to know this is part of that scenario.
And a very important point about a kid who's going to come, you've got to do this, Mom, you've got to do that, Mom. We know that they're doing it out of well-beingness, they're concerned for you. But as you said, remember the role. They're still your parent. So come at them as, as they're their parent, not coming over, I know better than you and you must do, as I say, right? Because that's going to backfire.
Well said. Perfectly said.
And Mark, I'm sure that has come across so many times, when the parent has said to the kid, prepare for your old age, or was, a young kid who's doing very well turns down to the parents, why didn't you prepare for your old age better? You should have done this and you should have done that. Nobody wants to hear that, do they, Mark?
No, I can talk to people about what we should do in our 20s, what we should do in our 30s, 40s, 50s, but the reality is often life gets in the way, and sometimes it throws us a deck of cards that isn't what we had anticipated. And we really have to do whatever it is that we have to do to get from one day to the next. A perfect example is, in a microcosm, is sort of like the Social Security decision, right? Do I take it at age 62? Do I wait, or 65 or 70? I can do the math for certain people, but if you're in a situation where you have to have the money, then you get. Again, this gets back to what our industry has done a lousy job of preparing people for this transition, which is so huge. Study after study. As a matter of fact, I just saw something that came through my desk this morning that was written in September of 2021. It was a little bit different topic, but it's pretty close. And it says, does postponing retirement affect cognitive function? Which was an interesting question. What happens if I do retire longer? And it said, the conclusion was those who work longer experience less cognitive decline. I would add to that, and it goes to the point Joy was making as well, the connectivity, the people around you. I could retire today, but I have too much energy. I have too much creativity. I have too much joy in what I'm doing. So retirement for me is going to mean something different. I was 20 or 30 at some point. I can't foist my thought process and how I thought when I was 20 or 30 on my wonderful, lovely millennial kids who have my grandkids, and ask them to think in exactly the same way I was thinking, or make judgment about how they're running their lives. And as Joy said, that should go upstream as well.
Yeah. Plant seeds, right? All we can do is plant seeds, like
Right.
the older you get, the more you're in a pattern. And that same old pattern that has always been, and you don't even know you're in that. And then somebody comes along, like, all three of you, that throws a different view of things, a different perspective. And it's like, well, because suddenly you're looking at yourself and going, and I haven't prepared financially. And am I taking care of myself? And do I know what to do? And panic sets in, and what happens? Shut down. But the seeds have been planted. And if I love the kind of the law of attraction. If those seeds are strong enough, they'll take root, all right? And kind of the law of attraction will keep watering them until something comes up. You know what? I am finding myself a little sluggish. Or, I just don't seem to be around happy people anymore. Or, perhaps I shouldn't go and book that expensive holiday. It's eating too much into my money. Maybe I can be more productive with my money. And if we can get to those questions with self, then those seeds have grown, and then it becomes our choice as to we want to be proactive and do something about it. But the moment you demand somebody to do something about it, automatically the wall's going to go up. So it's like always referring, I think, to you in the first person. I wish I'd done this, or when I did this, I felt this way. Or did you know that so-and-so did that? And it's an objective view over something, and you're planting seeds. And especially when it comes to wellness, right, Deborah? I mean, trying to get people to change a lifestyle, especially with something they like and it may not be good for them. What do you mean I can't put my meat and potatoes together?
Yes, I know. I think, one of the things that I'm hearing a theme of, and yes, I think it's when they have the answers. If there's a problem, trying to find the solution. I think it's just interesting how it just kind of flips. It's like trying to get your teenager to do something.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's like you're back against the wall. And honestly, when you get to say I've earned it, when you're talking about like I earned sitting and watching the Wheel of Fortune, how dare you tell me after what I've done, how I've lived, what I've
Right.
been through.
All the gray hairs.
Yes.
You've given me.
Yeah.
So until there's a pain point or an information point, right?
That's right.
And until there's that, then honestly, it is okay. And here's the interesting thing: when I talk to people a lot is purpose. So if you are fulfilled and you are having the time of your life. Now, look, if it was Antique Roadshow, and my kids have been telling me not to watch Antique Roadshow forever, I'm like, sit your butt down and learn something. This is great stuff. So my son used to go, I have a painting that I had to buy. His first piece of, oh my gosh, that'll be worth money one day, because I made the poor child watch Antique Roadshow. So I'm like, okay, I'll buy the painting. Still hangs on our, it's a great, great sign of commerce. But I think it's just kind of look at it that way, where the teenager is going to go, what do you know? Right? Because remember, we didn't know anything.
Oh, right,
and,
of course.
and it's also the same way. So enjoy
brain
talking
cells
about
just disappear. Yeah.
I thought it's very much the same way. I mean, I don't want to be told what to do either. But I think as long as someone finds purpose in if they're resting, rest.
Yeah.
If you're watching that show because it gives you joy, that's great. I think it's when they come to the conclusion, or someone's seeing that there's something not healthy, like you're not happy, and maybe these things, and what would bring you purpose. I don't care if it's saving the world, like you said, Joy, or watching Antique Roadshow, but what's making you excited? What makes you feel like participating in your own life? It doesn't have to be out in the world. You don't got to go save the world or go on a cruise and go save, elephants in Bangkok. You don't have to, but what gives you purpose? And that's I think at the very, very core of health is purpose, because Yeah. So no one's gonna, if you're unhappy, it doesn't matter if you eat your potatoes and vegetables and meat all in the same meal. Like you're not going to feel good. You're not going to feel good. But it's when people want to shift or when they want to improve. Look, I read a lot of books on I'm pretty happy or I might be okay financially, but I think by talking to Mark, I'm going to take it up a notch. So I'm the take it up a notch person. You might feel good. You want to feel great. Then you call someone that can take it up a notch. I'm the take it up a notch girl, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you talk about purpose,
Mm-hmm.
the whole business culture, right? There is a reason and a purpose for you getting up in the morning. There's a reason for you to go to work or whatever that means anymore. There's a purpose for my having my 2:00 Zoom call. That I have focus, I have construct, I have a reason for being there, I have an identity. And for people who just focus on the money and the finances when it comes to transitioning into retirement are going to completely miss what they need to really grasp onto and embrace, which is creating a whole new purpose, a whole new identity, filling ourselves with hobbies, or I've got one client, all he wanted to do was sit 24/7 on the beaches in Naples, period, end of conversation. And then we've got other people who, just like Sara was saying, I'm retired. I don't know how, given all I'm doing right now, how I had enough time to go to work before. Right?
Yes.
So you've got one end of the spectrum versus the other. You've got to find your own balance, and it may take some time, but you can't retire and figure it out at the same day. You've got to in advance think about that and have conversations with your partner about what roles you're going to be playing and what it's going to look like, because it's not a mystery why the gray divorce is going up in numbers when the rest of the divorces are going down. It's a paradigm shift at many different levels, and it's just not the issue of finances.
Right. It's a part of it, an ingredient of it, but not the whole of it. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this show, and as I said, I want people to go back and listen to each one of your shows, because you ring bells and you spotlight things that everybody needs to know. I am one of those people that invested my energy into everyone else and not myself, and so my health has suffered from it. I did not prepare at all for old age, and I am suffering for it. I didn't know the things I needed to know, which I wish I'd known so I could have been more prepared. And what keeps me going and gets me up every day is purpose. It is knowing I'm doing something that's making a difference in the lives of others, bringing people together like you guys who are sharing your wonderful wisdom that's going to help other people shift their perspective, shift their actions, seed some thought, or just have the abilities to know what to do. And so I think for me, purpose is really, really important. It is more important than money, which with me is pretty rational, because somehow money just seems to go by. It doesn't seem to, I'm not a magnet for money. I'm a magnet for abundance and enrichment, and that comes in the form of people I interview, right? So it's having that purpose, I think, that reason to get up every day is one, I think, the key important things in life. But having the security of health, wellness, and people around you that are going to be a part of your community, that are going to keep you going and support you and allow your enrichment to grow and be shared, and share the good times and the bad times with you, I think is essential in life. Hey, Joy?
Sara, I have a friend who also watches the money card just walk by.
I feel like I'm one of those money machines trying to grab it.
Yes, and we've had many talks, and we laugh a lot because she has always been the most incredibly giving, loving, genuinely interested in other people person you will ever meet. Very much like you. You are a magnet for love, and people will gravitate toward you forever. And we know who those people are. And this is what I tell my friend, and it probably applies to you. While you are out there doing all this good in the world, there are many of us who are doing the same, but we are also doing things with our money that have allowed us to be financially stable. But we have friends like you. And to those friends, they will never have to worry because they have friends like us who have enough. And that there at some point will never without a doubt be a point where we would let anything happen to those people if it had to do with money. And so this is why when we have close friends, some of our friends have no money, but a lot of love and good food. and
the wine.
And wine. And some of us have money and we will have enough to share. And it's funny how it will all come out in the wash, as they say. And I believe that. And I know that that's true for my friend, and I'm sure that that's true for you and people like you who are just givers. And when we talk about law of attraction and what it means to be successful in this world, and Mark, of course, it's financial and otherwise, because you keep saying you can have all the money in the world, but where does it get you? We are going to do old age differently than our parents. There will be rich boomers and poor boomers, but we know how to do communes. We know how to do community. We know how to band together. That was what our generation was all about. And we will take care of each other. I know we will.
I mean, that's the hippie mentality, right?
It is the hippie mentality.
Everybody looking out for each other, which
That's
is really
right.
important. And I think, a big importance, most certainly, is not putting the dollar mark on a person. That person is a billionaire, so that's all they are. That person has no money, so therefore that's all they are. Right. And I think it's if we could take the money out of the equation, like if you've got the money, seed opportunities for other people. Right. And it's really, really important that I think that we do look at the abundance of the person, of the heart and soul of the person. And as you said, as a community, like the old wise woman or the old wise men, they just waited for people to come to them, and then people would gift them. Right. And always made sure they were all right, so the wisdom could keep on flowing. So I think that's a wonderful view of community, and one that we could really work towards. But I think that perhaps we're not quite there yet, and it needs to be more done on that. Mark or Deborah, who wants to go with that one?
Oh, Mark, I think that's your wheelhouse. I'm going to just go, Mark.
Here I am, and I got my pasta and wine just ready. And Deborah, you cannot tell me I can't have chocolate.
Okay.
I'm coming over.
You're allowed to have pasta. Just make one clear statement to the world. You're allowed to have pasta, but the reason why I say to not have it with a protein is because you have digestive enzymes. And these digestion enzymes are going to go after your protein first and break down your 3 to 5 hours of your fish or your chicken or your beef or your game or whatever. Then your starch, unfortunately, doesn't have the attention of the enzymes. It's like, no, thank you. And so it actually ferments. And so what's going through your intestinal tract is this fermented starch, but these proteins that are broken down. But if you want to have, chicken and pasta, have them in separate meals, or have your big meal during the day, or have or limit your size. Because if you have your starch and there's no protein, those enzymes are like, woo, let's go to the starch, break it down. Doesn't matter about your vegetables or what have you. And then you feel lighter, your intestines are lighter. And then you don't end up with extra stuff that you're like, where did this stuff come from? Because it's harder to get rid of the stuff after you're 50, but your digestion will feel good. And when you can digest your body and your food, you can also digest your emotions better. You sleep better. Your organs age less. So have your pasta, gluten-free for those that are gluten-free. And Italians are like, okay, get out of my house. So, get out of my house. So have it, just don't have it in the same meal.
Right. Okay.
I mean, have a glass of wine, right?
Like,
this
are you
moderation?
Drink wine for breakfast. I don't care. But are you now my friends?
Yes,
See, my grandmother taught me years ago. She was ahead of the curve. Chocolate solves everything.
I agree. Yay!
All right?
Chocolate and wine even better.
The only reason I have the meal is to have the chocolate after.
Yes, exactly.
No, and we, I try not to make light of it. I've got, it's sort of like you can't gauge the book by its cover, right?
Mhm.
I'm in this business. I've seen people with millions of dollars. It does not mean, and it has nothing to do with who they are as people. And unfortunately, we judge so often. And somebody who, the king on top of the hill, we've heard that song and that story over and over again, doesn't necessarily mean that they're happy or even approach fulfillment. So yeah, again, we have to do all we can from an early age, to do all we can, put ourselves together to create some form of wealth. But I'm here to tell you, after 33 years of being in this business and many more years of being here in life, I've seen so many people who do not have money are a heck of a lot happier than a lot of the people who have lots of money. It's how you deal with it and how you navigate it and how you approach it and how you view yourself as part of that community.
Yeah, attitude again. And I think gratitude, I mean, there's so much emphasis, and especially like in the media, of, what you don't have, what you can't get, and, we're in British Columbia, Deborah and I, she's a Vancouver, I'm a Vancouver Island here. And we've just recently been devastated in our province with floods and landslides. My daughter lost a very good friend in a landslide, and his body still hasn't been found.
Oh my.
And we've had our main artery roads and railways disintegrated. We've had 3 cities, towns completely flooded. We've had our agricultural land, completely flooded. Then the land is going to take an awful long time to come back because of all the contamination. And it puts things into perspective. Is that why you're thinking, I haven't got this and I haven't got that. And then you look at a disaster somewhere in the world, and you look at how much we take for granted, and how much what we're seeing in the news all the time is how many people are just stepping up. There are people that are flying food to the rural areas that are stuck, and they have no roads to get out, and there's no roads to get food in. People who are just out there sanding bags, and people out there helping rescue the livestock. And it's just wonderful to see that community come together. My question is this: why do we only come together during a disaster? And why can't we be there for each other on some scale every day? Because I think we will all be a lot more enriched because of it. And I think a lot of our preparation for our old age is, how much gratitude do you have? Do you wake up every morning? Thank you for another day. Thank you for another day. Thank you for me being healthy enough to enjoy this day. Secure enough financially to enjoy this day, purposeful enough to actually have something to go to that is purposeful. And I think if we don't have that, I think it doesn't matter how much money we got, we're really poor. So the enrichment, I think, is very much in the abundance of attitude and how we appreciate life. And there's a lot to appreciate. All right, there's a hell of a lot to appreciate. Joy?
This goes back to my opening statement on being influential to people. Other people rub off on us. We can't tell anybody what to do about anything, right? It just doesn't happen that way. But when we wake up in the morning and we're happy, we are spreading that joy throughout whoever we interact with. We all have had the experience of walking down the street and how people interact with us if we're in a bad mood. Or when we're driving and we're angry, how we feel it. You could feel it in the car, you can feel it walking down the street. How we feel is a vibration that people pick up on. And so when we talk about doing good in the world and giving and all that, let's say you don't feel like it. People don't wake up happy. And we understand that. But sometimes it's our job just to be with people and be our happy selves if that's how we are. That is good enough. To be happy is an important responsibility in this world so that we possibly could bring joy to others.
Right. hence your name. Inspiration begets invitation. When we feel inspired by life, when we share that exuberance, it invites other people to switch that on within themselves. Oh, God, I've been miserable all day and I didn't feel good. Oh, maybe this happiness thing is something I should partake in. Right, Deborah?
Oh, I think I just want to, CC that or BCC that, that I think that's a really important piece. And I think, where I'm a big believer, where energy goes, energy flows, right? And abundance, we're talking about abundance and we're talking about health and we're talking about choices and options, it sounds like to me, and information to be able to share and give people so they can change that trajectory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's things that I'm sure that are in your book that I haven't even thought of yet. Maybe my mother's thought of them. The other thing is that I think culturally, if you're talking a certain age and over, like Sarah, I thought about that when you were talking about how people, maybe not in our culture, are paid for their wisdom as much as they are in other cultures, right? So I study Ayurveda and I study from other cultures where they would go put, some meat in a monk's bowl, that kind of thing. I think it's just adapting what we can in relationship to that philosophy. I believe that there's things that the younger generation are okay to talk about. I mean, my daughter asked me what I made for a living. She's like, do you mind if I ask how much she made? I would never have asked my mother what she made. You know what I mean? But I didn't want to dismiss it. I was actually, well, you're the executor of my will. That's probably a good thing for you to know. You know what I mean? So I think as we break barrier, I think as we make change, I think as, my family may always eat peas on Thanksgiving and microwave, but there's going to be two of us that don't. And then, the generation that, I think that we are really game changers. And if you open the conversation to give people permission to ask, do you know how many people, Mark, are afraid? I know, because I'm very involved in women over 50 in terms of entrepreneurship. Do you know how people they actually have shame? There's actual shame about what they make, and they feel like they can't tell people that they're not where they want to be. I think for this demographic or this culture or people that are aging now, it's really about breaking the glass, about asking information and not being afraid and not being ashamed and not having to keep up with the Joneses in terms of persona and take off the armor. And that's why Brene Brown's a chameleon billionaire, right? So, well, listen to Brene Brown. It's about being brave enough to ask. Like I did on Lloyd Robinson, remember him? Oh, well, you would probably, Sarah, because the CTV News, a major newscaster. And I was, oh my gosh, my daughter was maybe 4, so 24 years ago. And they had me on news because I was one of the first people talking about aromatherapy. They were like, who are you and what is this, right? And I said, ask yourself, still to this day, and we're talking 24 years ago, there's still people that are afraid to go get a second opinion from their doctor because they don't want to hurt his feelings. You're willing to risk your health because you don't want to hurt the feelings of a health practitioner. And so I think it's breaking the barrier of just being able to ask and have information and take those guards down. And so, you know what I mean? Like that, I don't know, that's where I'm going.
I think that's awesome.
You're going to arrest me. I could just go on and on and on and on.
This is awesome. So what I'm hearing you say, it's almost our responsibility as entrepreneurs, as people who are listened to ask questions. Everybody's thinking, but nobody's asking. And now, what's the harm in that?
Right.
There isn't any.
No. I know there was a beautiful saying the other day, communication is a problem, the lack of communication.
Yes.
But he would say a lack of compassion in our communication. And I think that was, absolutely. We may talk to one another or at one another, but where is the compassion in our conversation? And if you bring the compassion in that conversation, who cares what you make? Who cares if you drive a Ferrari or a beat up Beetle? Who cares about that? It's the essence of who you are is where your true enrichment lies. And if we could look to people and say, you are enough, you are beautiful, you are abundant, we're going to start breaking down all those stereotypes. And I think people are just not going to churn their stomachs over so much trying to live up to an expectation that really is an illusion.
Sarah, I would add, Sarah, I'm just going to throw in there, I think the word that I would add on there also is permission.
Yes, huge.
Permission, because there, and people can have it all, what that means to them. If
Yes.
that's optimum options and having their family. I mean, some people are like, oh my gosh, I never even thought about having my, I was looking at a suite in my building for my son. Now he's going to turn 18. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, do I want to be parenting another 10 years with him in the house? Maybe not. So he can be on the same floor, but there's options that you offer. And
Yes.
can people be financially abundant to their wildest dreams and be happy? Yeah.
Right.
Have optimum health and go do a marathon in a year and a half in Ireland and be, yes, you can.
Yeah.
You can with the right option and permission. Sometimes people are afraid to even go for it all, or they're afraid to not say they don't have it all. It gets two sides. I'd say,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
what is that thing called fear of success? Mark, you probably have. Where did that come from, and what is that about?
Another way to put it is the acronym is FOMO, fear of missing out, as well. And a lot of people ascribe that to the investing world, but I also think it deals with your personal world as well. I also, part of what we teach in some of the financial literacy webinars that we do is, how to have that conversation. Sometimes you wish to have that conversation, but you don't know how to position it in such a way that you're not going to make somebody angry. A perfect example is from an estate planning perspective. I want to make sure my mom and dad are all set, right? But if I ask them about money, the way they're thinking about it is, he or she is just waiting for me to kick the can so I can get my money.
Right.
Well, no. But what we have to understand is not only am I not asking that, but they're concerned about not being a burden to anybody else. So when we talk about this in the webinars, we say you can never talk about money. Well, how do you deal with that? So we give people tips about how to understand the other's perspective and what they want to accomplish, and to think about it a little bit out of the box versus how you would, because you're not asking about the money and they don't want to hear about the money. So therefore, I just back away at all from asking anything. But again, we need to go to coaches and the such and do the research and figure out how to ask these questions in such a way that it benefits everybody.
Well, I will say one thing, because I have given a lot of communication programs for adult children, and for adult children with no parents in the room. And that's the number one thing that they talk about, is how in the world do I get them to let me know going forward, am I going to end up paying all their bills? And one thing I say is, well, you can't walk in the door and start bombarding them with questions. So you have to get the relationship on track first.
Yes.
And that is a different dynamic for everyone in the room. So that's where you typically start, because if there's no trust in the room, that question is going to break down every bit of trust there is. So where's the relationship first? And then you could go forward. But 9 out of 10 of the adult children who are worried that their parents are going to cost them money don't have a relationship with their parents.
Yeah,
And
because it
that's
shouldn't be
why-
of concern, should it really?
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. The money's not the problem. The relationship is the problem.
Yeah.
And that's where they have to start. And that takes work.
I'm in the process of my friend here, my 88-year-old, is redoing her will, and she's made me the executor of her will. And we've just had the paperwork back, and there's a few big loopholes missing. Because what happens in that interim and and those details haven't been done, and I had to bring it to her attention, because now it has to go back and be written. And immediately she kind of felt overwhelmed. And I said, no, we're not worrying about the dollar sign here. We're just worrying about the logistics. And when I said to her, A, B, C, and D are going to have to be done, and we just need to know how it's going to be covered and all of that. And then it's after, some resistance, then it was like, oh, okay, yeah, I see the logics. Right. So it's like whatever resistance you're going to get at first, don't take it personally. That's just that their own trepidation over it. But when you present it in a kind of a black, white, logical manner, eventually they'll see the picture and what you're really trying to say.
This is the woman that you live with, right?
Yes.
These are the really, well, you have a good relationship.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. So yes, but you can imagine not living with your parents for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the kid walks in the door and says, so mom, how much money do you have and can you afford, long-term care? There's the door.
Yes. Well, my kids know I can't. So I'll be farmed out to one of them somewhere down the road. They can work it out.
Right.
Yeah.
But I love, Deborah, that your daughter said, hey, mom, how much do you make? I love that. But that just shows you how close you are. That's a testament.
Well, I also made, so my mother was a credit manager for a large company. And so interestingly enough, my mother doesn't share that information with me, but there was conversation of monies, right? And then I remember reading some books, The Wealthy Barber and Kiyosaki and all that stuff that you read. And so I read those books to my children. Mark, you'd love this. My son is going to be 18 in a few weeks and is starting his first business. And he goes, that thing you told me where I can make money on my money? Like, can we start doing that now? And I'm like, yeah, when you actually have money. So that's a different conversation. But and if anyone has, to pass it on, one of the ways that I kept the communication around finances open with my children is we had what was called, it was a family bed. And anyone could bring up any issue whatsoever, and the other person had to not respond back. Oh my word! And so ever since my son was like 3, he's like, I have something to say. I'm mad at dad because he's mean to me. You know what I mean? Like, he just let me have this. So there was a form of open communication. And then what I do every year with my daughter, who happens to be the eldest, there's 10 and a half years apart, is I have a meeting with her and I go through all of my assets. This is all my assets. This is my and I also have conversations about wills. And it's like, okay, I literally sat my kids down. I'm like, who wants this and who wants this? Nobody wanted my Baryshnikov picture, by the way. They decided they're going to burn it with me. And so I kind of went through that.
It's going to the antique show.
Yeah, did that as they were teenagers. Yeah. The person who gets that picture gets that picture. But I did it as part of our family culture to talk about money like it wasn't a taboo. And I'm like, there's the drawer in my house and everybody knows where to go. The copy of my will, I have 4 people that have the copy of my will, right? So I think I was the proactive one, and it was uncomfortable at first because they were like, okay, I need to know this. I'm like, yeah, you do. And 5 years later, 10 years later, they now know that, and it's a comfortable conversation. And I hope they do that with their children, because I don't know I finally had a conversation with my mother. I'm like, your sister just passed. Do you want to at least tell me you have a will? Like, do you want to at least tell me you have one? I'm assuming Judy's the executor. She's like, yes. I'm like, okay, I just need to know where it is. Please tell me where it is. So it's breaking challenge with the generation above, but I decided to break the barrier with the generation below.
Excellent, because my ex-husband is Chinese, and his parents would not write a will because in writing a will, it meant that you were inviting death. And so it was a huge mess, a total huge mess, and things were hidden, and it was a long drawn out thing. And it's and there are cultures that do look at it that way. So Mark has to leave soon because he's in demand. People need his expertise, so I'm going to start rounding things off, and I want each one of you actually just to partake some wonderful 2022 wisdom here of little things that we could shift our perspective on and maybe start applying, that is going to be the easy steps into kind of looking at all of this differently. So Mark, as you have to leave, would you share that with us, but then also share your website and how people can get hold of you?
I think the most important thing to do is prepare. I got the call many years ago from somebody who I was talking to about long-term care insurance, and she didn't want to do it, but it's my job to bring it up. And so for years, I had put it on the back burner. On a Friday afternoon, she calls me up and she says, I think I need that long-term care insurance. I said, why? She says, well, Monday I'm going in for a brain operation. Well, a little bit too late.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to retire Friday. What am I going to do Monday? No.
Right.
In our industry, we call it the retirement red zone. You know, if you're really seriously going to prepare for it, you got to do it at least 5 years out. But from a financial perspective, you got to start a lot further along than that. And I think the biggest thing, and we've all talked about it, is money does not mean happiness. Toys do not mean fulfillment. It's nice to have that stuff. It's nice to be able to pursue it, but it doesn't define us. And that we have to find the identity that we had when we were working. And for those of us who are entrepreneurs, that's a tough thing to replace. This is our baby. And if I were to leave here, you know, it'd be really tough for me to find something else that would give me possibly the same fulfillment, enrichment, passion, etc. But it's a big part of the success moving forward into retirement. And for anybody who wants to see any of our videos on YouTube, it's Your Retirement Authority. And we talk about not just Social Security and investing and retirement, but what is the difference between rich and poor, and what does make us happy? And how do we pursue fulfilled retirement? So it's 150 different videos at this point and growing 2 a week. So if you go to Your Retirement Authority, you can find out more.
And your site?
www.55retire.com. That's 55retired.com. Yes, I've blown through that number by some age, but I'm still enjoying what I'm doing.
That is the key, the enjoyment of what you're doing. And I do invite you to come out. This is the 3rd show with Mark. Each time, just abundance of wisdom that he shares. And, you know, you're not just coming at things from numbers point of view. You're coming at things from a wellness of life. And, you know, money is that security that can allow us to pursue those things that make us happy. But money should never be the end goal. It is the foundation which we springboard from. So I'm going to let you go, Mark. Thank you so much for being here. And please, everybody, go back and listen to his other shows. All you have to do is put Mark Singer in at selfdiscoverymedia.com and all of his shows will come up. And Happy New Year.
Sarah, thank you. Joy, Deborah, Happy New Year to both of you.
Thank you. You too, Mark.
So, you know, Joy, how about some wonderful wisdom from you? I mean, when I did the show with you, I was blown away by, you know, your not only your compassion, but your due diligence on everything that you have really spent time in going through, asking the questions that people didn't even know were a question in the first place, you know, giving us those answers and the resources. You know, you really are truly dedicated to it. So, you know, just what wisdom do you have for us for 2022? And also, how can people get hold of you?
Well, the wisdom I have to share, I think, has to do with the care of loved ones as a caregiver, and how that really translates into the kind of quality of life that we gain from being introspective when we relate to other people. I have learned for the past 69 years now that it's all about the relationships that we have, which also means not being with people that don't respect who we are, and that making sure that we are not in those situations and being responsible for the quality of our relationships. Going forward, we are only our relationships. Mm-hmm. And so that requires us to say, what kind of friend am I being to the people around us? Not taking our friends for granted, keeping our promises, and surrounding ourselves with good friends, because ultimately we will be creating networks of support for the rest of our lives. You know, Sara, all of the books that I have written are from hanging around old people. And it is their wisdom that I write about. And these are people who have successfully negotiated long lives of happiness, sadness, losses of all kinds, and yet they are the most incredible people.
Mm.
So they ultimately say what it comes down to are the quality of the relationships that they cultivate and continue to cultivate. Because the longer they live, the more they're left behind.
Mm.
So there's a process that they go through over and over again. And now I'm doing the same and fulfilling their legacy by teaching others what they have taught me, and that is to be a good person on this earth in all ways. And to your point, Deborah, health is the number one value that I have, because without it, I cannot do my work. And so I purposefully eat right and exercise in order to stay healthy, in order to do the work I was put on this earth to do. And that's 2022. Here we come, right?
And you're talking about relationships, but the most important relationship you need to have is with self.
That's right.
Because that's the person that you are sharing with everyone else. And your books aren't just for people of mature age. They're for the people, the children of the mature ages, of how to prepare for your parents aging, how to prepare for your own old age. And it's just a little encyclopedia of knowledge that we haven't thought about, but you have accumulated from all those people the wisdom that is needed. So encourage people to do that. Again, all they have to do is put in your name at selfdiscoverymedia.com, Joy Loverde, Loverde, and both of your shows will come up. What is your website, love?
It is elderindustry.com. And I have a ton of articles on there as well and videos. So I hope you enjoy.
You are just
Thank you.
a mountain of wonderful information. Deborah, my darling, what wisdom do you have for us for 22?
Well, I'm going to have to make it quick because I have a pending and they're texting me. I was like, okay, so obviously I'm about health and wellness, and I do believe it's the most important piece of real estate. So, when you're talking about your money or your choices or what have you, I believe put it into yourself instead of those pillows or the curtains or the knew this or knew that. Sara, I come from that as well, where I was taking care of everybody else.
Yes.
It was a learning lesson on self-care. I believe your health and your wellness is your number one priority in relationship to longevity of happiness. So for me, the one thing that I love in terms of going into 2022 or what have you is I'm going to, anyone that wants to have like a quick little complimentary mini conversation with me about the things that you can do to stop having to live with a body that doesn't serve you. So, it's like, oh, I've got this and I've had it forever and it's always going to be there. Please don't say that to yourself as you go into the next year, because optimum health is available to you at any time, at any point. And it doesn't mean that you have to be climbing, a mountain. It can be just, there are things that you can do that don't cost money. There's things that you can do that shift things that will make a difference in your body. And like you said, it does affect what we do during the day. It does affect our ability to volunteer. It does affect to pick up our grandchildren. It does affect to hang out with them longer because you get tired. There's all sorts of things. And so as your body starts to talk to you, my message to you is please listen. Please listen. The first time it talks.
Yes, don't wait till you have the cosmic two for.
So it's like, and so there's many things you can do. I could go on and on and on, and I'm sure we'll have a show about it, but and I do shows about it. So there's information I can share. There's also, I have ongoing probably 2 or 3 a week of I talk about natural supplements on things that you can do for your anti-aging. I'm a big believer in the age reversal. That's my jam. I've been in age reversal for almost 30 years. So there are things that you can take, and I talk about things that are free that you can do. And then if you are going to supplement, if your body needs supplementation, I believe in supplementation because of modernization, then there's choices that are probably better for you that I share that information because it's my work. So people can reach out to me on debdrummond.com. Super easy. It's just my name, debdrummond.com. And you can send me an email. And if you want to have a chat, that's fine. And I'm happy to invite you to any of the lectures that I do. And a lot of them are complimentary.
Right. And Deb Drummond is Drummond, folks, for those that are just listening. Thank you so much, ladies, for being with us here today. This has just been a beautiful way to start off 2022. Even if we are 20 and you're turning 21, you're aging. So you may as well prepare for it, and you may as well have longevity of body, longevity of mind, heart and soul, and relationship with self, longevity of your finances, because we truly want you to let your abundance flow, let your cup run over. And the more you invest in yourself, the more you're going to have to share with everyone else. So thank you so much, ladies, for sharing with us here today.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you, Joy.
You too, Deborah.
Okay.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yes. And, 2022 is what we make it. It doesn't matter what gets
Right.
thrown at us. It doesn't matter what next crisis is going to come our way. It's up to us what we're going to do for ourselves, the attitude and the gratitude that we look at things, and how we're going to change our community and the atmosphere around us. So until next time, folks, Happy New Year, and may this new year serve you well by you serving yourself. Until next time, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. You will hear many shows here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. We have new shows for you out every week. Just find them on our podcast or What's New. If you feel that you have something to share that makes a difference in the lives of others, or you too feel that you could be a host, please contact me at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com, and we will be glad to speak with you. Have a wonderful day.